History has a cruel sense of humor. In 2014, Kawhi Leonard helped dismantle the Miami Heat, the team that redefined super teams. 5 years later, he walked into another finals, silent as ever, and did it again. The 2019 NBA Finals weren't just a championship series. They were a funeral for an empire. Golden State had ruled basketball for half a decade. 5 straight finals, 3 rings. A dynasty so brilliant it changed how the game was played. But greatness has an expiration date, and Kawhi Leonard was the man who stamped it. The Warriors entered that June chasing immortality, a three-peat, a place beside Jordan's Bulls, and Shaq and Kobe's Lakers. But under the glow of their banners, something was breaking. Kevin Durant's body, Klay Thompson's legs, their chemistry, their trust, their time, all beginning to fracture. Meanwhile, north of the border, a city that had lived its whole life in someone else's shadow was ready to rise. Toronto had gambled everything for a chance at glory, trading loyalty for legacy, comfort for chaos. And at the center of it all stood Kawhi Leonard, a one-year rental with ice in his veins, carrying the weight of a nation and the calm of a killer. This wasn't the finals of celebration, it was one of destruction. Because when the dust settled, the Raptors would have their first title, and the greatest dynasty of its era would be lying in pieces at their feet. Before the dynasty crumbled, it rose from nothing, a movement disguised as a basketball team. In 2015, the Golden State Warriors didn't just win, they transformed the game. Steph Curry, a 6'3" miracle with glass ankles, turned the impossible into routine. His jumper wasn't a shot, it was a spell. Every release felt like defiance against physics itself. Klay Thompson, the other half of that storm, never talked much. He didn't need to. He spoke in bursts of threes, in silent avalanches that could bury a team in minutes. And in the middle of it all was Draymond Green, part genius, part chaos, the engine that powered their madness. Together, they became basketball's most dangerous symphony. A 67-win season, a championship. And just like that, Golden State became the epicenter of a new era. But brilliance breeds hunger. After their historic 73-9 run in 2016 ended with LeBron's comeback and Kyrie's dagger, the Warriors stared into their reflection, greatness unfulfilled. They didn't want revenge, they wanted insurance. Enter Kevin Durant, a 7-foot assassin who made perfection look effortless. When he joined, the league shifted overnight. And for 2 years, they ruled untouched. 2 straight titles, 1 loss, and 32 playoff games. The gap between Golden State and everyone else wasn't competition, it was cruelty. But every empire has its breaking point. For the Warriors, it came disguised as ego. November 2018, a game against the Clippers. Draymond grabbed a rebound, raced up the floor, and ignored Durant screaming for the ball. He fumbled the play, the game went to overtime. And on the bench, the dynasty fractured. Draymond turned to Durant and snapped, "We don't need you. We won without you. You can leave." Durant didn't yell back, he just stared, cold and calm, before mouthing the words, "That's why I'm out." The moment was short, the wound was not. From that night on, the joy was gone. The team still won, but it felt heavier, mechanical, joyless, inevitable. A dynasty running on fumes. The Warriors were still kings, but for the first time, even they felt it. The crown was starting to slip. While Golden State's dynasty began to decay under the weight of its own greatness, a very different story was unfolding in the North. For years, the Toronto Raptors were the NBA's annual tragedy. Great regular seasons, big expectations, and the same ending every spring. LeBron James sending them home. 2016, 2017, 2018. Each year, the same heartbreak. They weren't a bad team, they were just trapped in a league ruled by a king. When LeBron finally left the East for Los Angeles, Toronto's moment should have arrived. But their front office didn't want should, they wanted certainty. President Masai Ujiri decided that if they were ever going to win, They couldn't be afraid to burn everything to the ground. So he made the boldest move in franchise history. He traded away DeMar DeRozan, the loyal star who had carried Toronto through every storm, for a man who didn't even want to be there, Kawhi Leonard. A mystery, a genius, a ghost in sneakers. Kawhi had barely played the season before, his relationship with San Antonio shattered by injury and mistrust. He said almost nothing publicly. His contract had 1 year left. He had no connection to Toronto. On paper, it was madness, but destiny has no interest in playing it safe. From the moment Kawhi arrived, the team moved differently. He didn't talk much, but his silence had gravity. Every possession, every defensive stance, every pull-up jumper, it carried a kind of inevitability. The Raptors played like men who understood this was it. 1 year to make history or disappear forever. And then came the moment that rewrote the city's soul. Game 7, Eastern Conference semifinals. Kawhi drives right, fades to the corner, lets it fly. 1 bounce, 2, 3, 4. And then the world explodes. That shot wasn't just a win, it was the exorcism of decades of failure. It was the sound of Toronto finally believing. They went on to crush Milwaukee, winning 4 straight after falling down 0-2, and by the end of May, the impossible had become reality. For the first time ever, the Toronto Raptors were going to the NBA Finals. But waiting for them was a wounded dynasty clinging to life. And Kawhi Leonard, the quiet assassin, was about to aim at his second empire. Before the collision, both sides had to crawl through fire. For Golden State, the road back to June was lined with blood and brilliance. Round 1, the Los Angeles Clippers. Patrick Beverley hounded Kevin Durant like a man trying to guard a ghost. Durant snapped, "I'm Kevin Durant." Series over, dynasty alive. Round 2, Houston. Durant rises for a jumper and grabs his calf. The building went silent. The Warriors' god of war was gone. But Steph Curry refused to fold. 33 in the second half of Game 6, a one-man avalanche that buried the Rockets and dragged Golden State back to the conference finals. Portland waited next. Curry averaged 36 and swept them out of the gym. 5 straight finals, but the celebration felt hollow. Their bodies were failing, their joy gone. They weren't chasing history anymore. They were trying to survive it. Meanwhile, in the East, something ancient was awakening. Toronto's journey began with a Game 1 embarrassment against Orlando. Kawhi didn't panic. He calculated. He closed the series in 5. Then came Philadelphia. 7 games of exhaustion and tension. 4 bounces later, destiny changed zip codes. Milwaukee was next. Down 0-2 against the MVP, Kawhi switched onto Giannis, locked him down, and flipped the series upside down. 4 straight wins, 4 statements of dominance. By the end of May, 2 forces were racing toward each other. One dynasty limping toward destiny. One city rising behind a silent killer. And when the smoke cleared, they met at center stage. The 2019 NBA Finals. One empire's last breath, another's first. June 2019, 2 teams, 2 legacies, 1 collision course. The Warriors entered the finals shorthanded, but still dangerous. Durant was sidelined, but the mystique lingered. Toronto came ready to fight. Game 1, the Raptors looked fearless. Kawhi steady, Pascal Siakam unstoppable, 32 points on 14 of 17 shooting. Steph dropped 34, but it wasn't enough. Toronto took Game 1, and belief filled the air. Game 2, Golden State's famous third-quarter storm hit. An 18-0 run, Klay Thompson on fire. But fate twisted again. Klay went up for a jumper, came down wrong, and limped off with a strained hamstring. Still, the Warriors clung to life. Curry to Iguodala, the shot, the dagger, series tied. 1 game each, 2 wounded teams trading punches. But beneath the surface, the balance was shifting. Toronto could smell weakness, and Kawhi Leonard was waiting for the kill. Game 3, Durant out, Klay out, Steph Curry alone. He dropped 47, one of the greatest solo performances in finals history. But it wasn't enough. Kawhi matched every run with ruthless precision. Raptors 2-1. Game 4. Klay returns, but Kawhi takes over. 17 points in the third, pull-ups, steals, silence. The Raptors steal both games in Oracle, a 3-1 series lead. The building that birthed the dynasty now echoed with doubt. Only one man could save them now. Kevin Durant was coming back. Durant walked into Scotiabank Arena taped, limping, and fearless. For 11 minutes, he was perfect. 11 points, 3 threes. The Warriors looked alive again. Then disaster. A push off the right foot, a snap, and Achilles torn. The silence was deafening. Durant limped off as both teams applauded, tears mixing with disbelief. The dynasty's heart stopped beating, but its body refused to die. Klay and Steph hit clutch threes in the final minutes. Kawhi scored 10 straight to push Toronto ahead, and the Splash Brothers answered with back-to-back daggers. Golden State won by 1. They lost their superstar, but not their pride. The series moved to Oracle, the last game ever in that arena. One final stand. Oracle Arena, the home of the dynasty. One last battle. Klay Thompson was incandescent. 30 points, pure fire. Then, fate struck again. A fast break dunk attempt, a mid-air collision, a fall. He tore his ACL. And yet, he came back. Limping, broken, unyielding. 2 free throws, swish, swish, then gone. The rest of the night felt like a requiem. Steph carried the team to the final seconds, down 1. Iguodala to Draymond, to Curry for the lead. Missed. The shot that once defined a dynasty became its farewell. Toronto 114, Golden State 110. The Raptors were NBA champions. The Warriors, legends turned mortal. Oracle's lights dimmed for the final time. Even greatness must say goodbye. When the dust settled, the scoreboard told one story. History told another. Golden State had changed basketball forever. Their joy, their shooting, their unselfish genius. But every revolution ends where it began, in sacrifice. They gave everything to the game, and in return, the game immortalized them. For Toronto, it was a beginning. For the Warriors, a transformation. Because true legends don't vanish when they lose. They echo. Dynasties don't die. They evolve. One fades, another rises, and the game moves forward. The 2019 finals weren't an ending. They were a passing of power, from the kingdom that ruled the decade to the man who reminded the world that even empires can bleed.